Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in life when you stand in front of the mirror not to fix your hair or clothes, but to ask yourself, am I truly the person I want to be? Not on paper, not in photos, but in your heart. Are you proud of the way you think, speak, walk, live? If that answer is anything less than a confident yes, then you are ready. Ready to level up your personality. Not by becoming someone else, but by becoming more of who you were always meant to be. You see, personality is not fixed. It is not a stamp on your forehead that says, this is how I am and this is how I'll stay. No, personality is a living, breathing energy. And just like a seed, it needs the right intention, action, and sunlight of self-reflection to grow. It doesn't take a decade. It doesn't need a dramatic makeover. All it takes is 30 honest days. 30 days where you choose growth, where you choose to observe, to reflect, to shift, and to bloom. Start with your self-talk. What you say to yourself creates who you become. This is not just a quote you read on Instagram. It is the very foundation of your personality. Every time you think to yourself, I'm not good enough, your body reacts. Your posture drops, your energy shrinks, your decisions change. You walk into life already defeated even before the world gets a chance to see you. But imagine this, what if for 30 days you change that voice? Not by lying to yourself, not by fake positivity, but by training your mind to become your friend. Let's be real. Most people treat strangers on the internet better than they treat themselves. And we wonder why we walk around drained, insecure, unsure. The truth is, your personality cannot grow in soil poisoned by self-hate. So you start small. You catch the moments when you say, I can't do this. And instead you try, I'll give it a shot. You notice when you say, I always mess up, and switch to, I'm learning, and that's okay. These tiny shifts are not fluff. They are like oxygen to the fire of your growth. Every word you say to yourself either waters your confidence or burns it. Now here's a secret most people don't realize. The way you talk to yourself becomes the way you talk to others. You see someone who is always judging others, and you can be sure they judge themselves twice as hard. That loud critic in their mind has spilled out. But those who are kind, calm, firm, and clear, that's not luck. That's years of inner practice. So give your self-talk a makeover. Write down the 3 negative things you say most often. Then rewrite them. Not in a silly, over-positive way, just in a way that gives you a chance to try. For example, change I'm so lazy to, I'm not consistent yet, but I'm showing up. It's not a lie, it's a bridge, a step toward a better version of you. And remember, your brain listens, it records, it builds patterns. The more you repeat something, the more it becomes part of your personality. So if you want to level up, this is where it starts. Not in books, not in videos, but in the conversation you're having with yourself at 2 a.m. when no one else is watching. There will be days you'll slip, days your mind will shout the old scripts. You'll never change. Why are you even trying? That's when you talk back. That's when you say, yes, I will. One day at a time. You don't argue. You don't fight. You redirect. Again and again. Like a river learning a new path. This 30-day journey starts in silence, inside your own head. No applause, no spotlight, just a quiet shift in the way you treat yourself. And trust me, once you begin to speak to yourself like someone you deeply care about, everything changes. You will walk differently, think differently, love differently, lead differently. Because you are no longer living in war with yourself. You are building peace. And peace is magnetic. Build emotional control. It's the secret sauce of real confidence. You can dress sharp, speak well, and walk like you own the room. But if you cannot control your emotions when things get tense, the illusion of confidence cracks instantly. Real confidence is not about having the loudest voice or the strongest opinion. It is about emotional stability. It is the calm in the storm, the pause before reaction, the ability to feel deeply without letting your feelings hijack your behavior. That is what separates someone with presence from someone just performing. Emotional control is not about suppressing how you feel. It is not pretending to be okay when you are not. It is about recognizing your emotions, understanding where they are coming from, and choosing your response instead of letting the moment choose it for you. People who lack this skill tend to explode, shut down, overreact, or spiral. And while everyone slips sometimes, making this a habit keeps you stuck in cycles where emotions make your decisions instead of logic, values, or clarity. Start with awareness. You cannot control what you refuse to notice. Pay attention to your triggers. What sets you off, what shuts you down, what makes you defensive or insecure. Most emotional reactions are not about the current situation. They are echoes from old pain, old stories, old patterns. If you want to stop repeating the same emotional mistakes, you need to track the source, not just manage the symptom. When you catch yourself in a reactive state, frustrated, angry, anxious, pause. Take a literal breath. Ask yourself, is this emotion in charge right now or am I? That one moment of self-awareness can shift the entire outcome of your day. You do not need to suppress what you feel, but you also do not need to obey it immediately. Emotional control is the space between stimulus and response. It is the ability to sit in discomfort and still choose your next move with intention. The truth is, life is unpredictable. People will disappoint you. Plans will fall apart. You will be misunderstood, judged, challenged, pushed. If your peace is constantly at the mercy of other people's actions, you are handing your power away every single day. But when you learn to protect your emotional energy, you begin to build a kind of inner strength that no one can shake. That is what makes you unshakable. Not because you avoid emotions, but because you have learned to navigate them with maturity. You also become a better communicator. When you are not overwhelmed by your feelings, you can actually hear what the other person is saying. You can listen to understand, not to defend. You can express your own truth without making it an attack. Emotional control turns conflict into connection, and it turns panic into poise. People feel safer around someone who stays grounded, and that trust is what creates real influence. This kind of control also builds discipline. When you learn to regulate how you feel, you stop making choices based on temporary moods. You do not quit just because you are discouraged. You do not lash out just because you are hurt. You move with consistency, not chaos. And that consistency builds the kind of character that people admire and remember. It is not about being cold or detached. It is about being centered. You can feel everything, pain, joy, fear, excitement, and still choose your response with grace. You can have the hardest day and still treat others with respect. You can feel the sting of criticism and still move forward without shrinking. That level of emotional control is what anchors your confidence. It is not just about what you do when things are going well. It is about how you carry yourself when they are not. Create a morning ritual that aligns your mind, body, and purpose. The way you start your day sets the tone for everything that follows. Most people roll out of bed already behind. They grab their phone, check messages, scroll through someone else's life, and let their attention scatter before they have even had a sip of water. Without realizing it, they've handed over their focus, their peace, and their control to chaos. But a powerful personality is not built in chaos. It is built in clarity. And clarity begins in the morning. You do not need a 2-hour routine or a fancy journal. A morning ritual is not about perfection, it is about alignment. It is about choosing to ground yourself before the world starts pulling you in 100 directions. Your energy in the first hour of the day either works for you or against you. That 1 hour becomes the blueprint for your reactions, your tone, your confidence, your creativity, and your self-respect. Every day that begins with intention strengthens your ability to handle the unexpected with grace. Start simple. Wake up at a time that gives you at least 30 quiet minutes before the outside world kicks in. Use that time to check in with yourself, not your notifications. The first voice you hear in the morning should be your own, not social media, not emails, not stress. What you do with that time is up to you, but it should be something that anchors you, something that connects your mind, your body, and your purpose. Movement is a powerful part of this. Even 5 minutes of stretching, walking, or light exercise can shift your state. It tells your body that you are not in survival mode, that you are choosing to show up fully. When your body moves, your energy moves. You breathe deeper. You think clearer. You step into your day with strength instead of stiffness. And that physical clarity spills into your mental clarity. Next, feed your mind something intentional. A few pages of a good book, a podcast, a journal entry, or even just sitting in silence. The goal is not to consume, it is to connect. Ask yourself a question. What kind of energy do I want to bring today? What matters most today? What am I avoiding? These questions give your day purpose before your to-do list takes over. They remind you that you are not just going through the motions. You are designing who you want to be. Add a personal ritual that makes you feel alive. Maybe it is making your bed. Maybe it is drinking water slowly while listening to music. Maybe it is reading something spiritual. The action does not matter as much as the intention behind it. This small act becomes a message to your brain. I care about how I feel. And I am taking time to set my foundation. When you do this consistently, it starts changing your self-image. You stop seeing yourself as someone who scrambles through life, and start seeing yourself as someone who takes ownership. You begin to notice that you are more present in conversations, more resilient under pressure, more focused when it counts. People pick up on that energy. They feel the difference. Because someone who starts their day with alignment moves differently through the world. This is not about being a morning person. This is about being a person of intention. You could start your day at 5 a.m. or 9 a.m. What matters is what you do with those first few minutes. Do you build yourself, or do you abandon yourself? Do you rise with clarity, or do you react out of habit? That small window each morning is a gift. It is your chance to check in with your direction, fuel your energy, and lead your day instead of being dragged by it. When you treat your mornings as sacred, you stop entering the day like a passenger and start showing up like a driver. Develop a signature habit that defines your discipline. In a world full of noise, one of the strongest ways to shape your personality and stand out is through consistency. Not flashy moments, not random motivation, just one thing you do every day that represents who you are and where you are going. A signature habit is not just a routine, it is a declaration. It says, this is what I commit to, no matter what. And that kind of consistency becomes a mirror for your discipline. Discipline is not about doing everything. It is about doing one thing well again and again, especially when you do not feel like it. That one thing becomes your anchor. It builds trust with yourself. It turns your personality into something you can rely on, not just something that depends on your mood or energy that day. A person who follows through on even one small promise builds an identity rooted in self-respect, not excuses. The habit itself can be simple. Reading for 10 minutes, meditating for 5, walking a mile, journaling before bed, studying one page, drinking enough water, practicing gratitude. The action is not what makes it powerful. It is the consistency that rewires your brain. You stop negotiating with yourself every day. You stop wasting mental energy deciding whether or not you'll do it. It becomes part of who you are, not just something you try to remember. People with strong personalities often have rituals. Athletes warm up the same way before every game. Artists have daily creative practices. Leaders take quiet time before making decisions. These habits are not random. They are designed. They remind the mind, this is who I am. This is how I operate. And over time, that repetition becomes your rhythm. It creates structure in your day, even when everything else feels uncertain. The reason most people never develop discipline is because they chase intensity instead of consistency. They start big, burn out fast, and then spiral into guilt. But real growth lives in the small, boring, consistent actions. Discipline is built in the unglamorous moments. The early mornings, the quiet choices, the silent wins that no one claps for. That is where character is forged. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Once you build that signature habit, it becomes your anchor on the hard days. When things are stressful, overwhelming, or chaotic, you still do the thing. You still show up. And that act of showing up becomes proof. It silences the voice that says, you're lazy, you're inconsistent, you never finish anything. Because now you have evidence. You have something to point to, something to stand on. You are no longer relying on motivation. You are running on identity. This habit also becomes a signal to others. People begin to associate you with reliability, with focus, with intentionality. They know what to expect from you. They see the results stacking up. You do not need to brag or convince. Your actions speak louder than your words. And that makes your personality magnetic. You are not just someone who talks about goals. You are someone who lives the process. The key is not to choose the most impressive habit. It is to choose the one that means something to you. The one that connects to your values. The one that aligns with who you want to be. And then protect it like it matters. Because it does. This is not just about productivity. It is about building an unshakable core, a discipline that holds steady through setbacks, criticism, distractions, and doubt. You become the kind of person who does not need to prove anything, because your life already proves it. The habit becomes more than a task. It becomes a message to yourself, to others, to the world. That message is simple. I'm here. I'm building. And I'm not going anywhere. Dress how you want to feel, not how others expect you to. The way you dress is not just about fashion or following trends. It is about sending a message to your mind and to the world. Every outfit you wear carries a signal. It tells your brain how to behave, how to feel, how to carry itself through the day. If you wear clothes that make you feel invisible, small or uncomfortable just to blend in or please others, then you are dressing for approval, not for power. But when you dress in a way that aligns with the way you want to feel, confident, bold, calm, creative, you are choosing to influence your own energy before the world even gets a chance to. People often underestimate how deeply clothing affects mood and mindset. That shirt you throw on when you feel lazy becomes associated with laziness. That outfit you wore when you felt powerful becomes a trigger for confidence. It is not about impressing anyone else. It is about telling your body and brain, this is who I am today. This is the energy I am stepping into. This is how I choose to show up. You do not need designer labels or a massive wardrobe. It is not about price, it is about intention. You can take the simplest outfit and turn it into armor by wearing it with purpose. Stand in front of your wardrobe and ask yourself, does this make me feel like the version of me I'm trying to become? If the answer is no, you are dressing to stay the same. You are keeping yourself in the past. Start building a wardrobe that reflects the energy you want to carry. Choose clothes that feel aligned with your goals. If you want to feel focused, wear something that makes you feel structured. If you want to feel relaxed, wear something that gives you comfort without making you shrink. If you want to be taken seriously, wear something that helps you take yourself seriously first. This is not vanity. This is self-respect in motion. You do not have to wait for a special event to look sharp. The way you treat everyday moments says a lot about your mindset. People often say, it doesn't matter, I'm just working from home or no one's going to see me. But you see you. And if you keep showing up for yourself like you do not matter, that becomes your baseline. You stop putting in effort. You start telling yourself that you only deserve to shine on the days when people are watching. But what happens when you flip that? When you start dressing for yourself, even on the slow days, you start walking differently. You sit up straighter. You respect your time more. You stop apologizing for taking up space, because you no longer need someone else to validate your worth. You are already living it, wearing it, breathing it. The people who make strong impressions are not always the loudest. Sometimes they are just the most self-aware. They know how to dress like they mean business, or creativity, or peace, or power. And over time that consistency builds a personal brand, not for others but for themselves. A standard that says, I value myself enough to show up with intention. This doesn't mean every day has to be a fashion moment. It means you take 2 extra minutes in the morning to choose something that lifts your energy. Something that feels like alignment, not obligation. Something that matches the person you are working to become, not the version you are trying to leave behind. You get dressed every day anyway. So why not make it count? Why not use it as one more tool in your transformation? Why not let your clothes speak to your future before your words ever do? End each day with reflection, not guilt, just gentle honesty. The day moves fast. Tasks stack up, notifications buzz, distractions pull you in every direction, and before you know it, you are closing your eyes with a head full of noise and a heart that is too tired to make sense of it all. But what if, instead of rushing into sleep with your thoughts tangled, you paused for a few moments and gave yourself the gift of reflection, not punishment, not a mental beating, just quiet, honest review. That space at the end of your day can become one of the most powerful tools for building a strong, grounded personality. Most people skip this step. They live on autopilot, wake up, survive, sleep, repeat. But without reflection, you are just recycling the same habits. You never really learn from your actions. You never really notice your growth. You miss the small wins. You skip past the patterns that need changing. And slowly, the days blur together until it feels like nothing is changing, even though time keeps moving. Reflection is where your awareness sharpens. It is where you start noticing how you handled situations, what made you anxious, what lit you up, what drained you, where you showed up fully, and where you pulled away. You begin to understand yourself better. You stop being a mystery to yourself, and with that understanding comes power. The power to choose differently tomorrow. This does not need to be dramatic or lengthy. Just 5 minutes. Sit with your thoughts. Ask yourself a few questions. What did I do well today? What felt off? Where did I react instead of respond? What am I proud of? What needs attention? This practice is not about dwelling on mistakes. It is about observing without judgment. Guilt is heavy. Guilt makes you shut down. But gentle honesty, that wakes you up, that helps you grow without shame. There is something deeply healing about closing your day with intention. It is like tidying up your emotional space before you rest. You are telling your mind, this day is complete. I've seen it. I've learned from it. Now I can let it go. That ability to let go is key. So many people carry unfinished emotional business into the next day. Conversations they never processed, regrets they didn't unpack, stress they didn't release. It all builds up. But when you make reflection a habit, you release the weight in small, manageable pieces. Reflection also sharpens your decision-making. You start to see where you wasted time. You notice the moments where you could have spoken up, where you fell into distraction, where you avoided something hard, and instead of beating yourself up, you prepare yourself. You become more intentional. You move into the next day with insight, not just hope. That edge, over time, compounds. You begin to act like someone who is paying attention, someone who learns, someone who grows. That presence changes how people experience you. There's a humility in reflection too. It keeps your ego in check. It reminds you that you're always learning, always evolving, always refining. But it also builds self-respect. You start seeing the effort you're making. You start noticing how far you've come, even when no one else sees it. And that quiet sense of pride becomes your fuel. You no longer need constant validation because you have your own internal scorecard. One that is honest, fair, and deeply aligned with who you are becoming. Ending your day with reflection is not about controlling the past. It is about preparing for the future with more awareness. It is how you turn experience into wisdom. It is how you stop repeating the same mistakes out of blindness and start changing your life out of clarity. It is a small act with massive impact, a soft moment with strong results. It is where self-awareness grows, where regret is replaced by responsibility, and where quiet progress is made visible. Practice active listening. It makes you magnetic in every room. When most people think about improving their personality, they immediately jump to speaking better, dressing better, or being more confident. But one of the most underrated transformative skills is not about talking at all. It is about listening. Not passive listening, not nodding along while your mind is somewhere else. Active listening. The kind of listening where the other person feels seen, heard, and important in your presence. That kind of attention is rare, and that is exactly why it is powerful. In a world where everyone is trying to be the loudest voice in the room, being the person who truly listens is like being a breath of fresh air. People are starving to be heard, to feel like their words matter. When you become the person who offers that space, you automatically rise in their eyes. You become someone they respect, trust, and want to be around. Not because of how impressive you sound, but because of how important you make them feel. Active listening is not a talent, it is a practice. It starts with being fully present. That means putting your phone away, not interrupting, not waiting for your turn to speak, but really hearing what the other person is saying. You listen with your eyes, your body, your energy. You lean in. You ask questions. You clarify. You show them that you are not just waiting to respond. You are with them in the moment. People can feel the difference. They know when you are half listening. They know when you are just waiting to jump in with your story, your opinion, your advice. And that breaks connection. But when you make the conscious choice to slow down, to truly listen without judgment or agenda, you create a rare kind of intimacy even in a short conversation. That's what makes you magnetic. It's not charm, it's presence. And here's the unexpected part. When you listen better, you become smarter. You pick up on nuance, emotion, hidden meaning. You understand people more deeply, which gives you better instincts in both personal and professional situations. You start responding, not reacting. You start building bridges instead of walls. You become someone people open up to. That is the kind of presence that makes an unforgettable impression. In fact, some of the most charismatic people in the world don't dominate conversations. They guide them. They steer the energy of the room, not by shouting, but by showing genuine interest. You walk away from a conversation with them thinking, wow, I really like them. But the truth is, they barely talked about themselves. They just made you feel good. That's the secret no one tells you. People remember how you make them feel more than what you say. So if you want to build a strong, lasting personality that pulls people toward you, start practicing this skill. Next time someone talks to you, resist the urge to relate it back to your experience right away. Resist the urge to solve the problem or give advice immediately. Just hold the space, nod, reflect, say, tell me more. Watch how they respond. Watch how they soften. Watch how the connection deepens. You do not need to be the smartest, funniest, or most outgoing person in the room to have a powerful personality. You just need to care enough to listen like it matters, because it does. Listening is not weakness, it is strength in disguise. It is influence without force. And once you master this, you will realize you never had to be the loudest to be remembered. You just had to be present. Take responsibility, stop blaming. It transforms how others see you. Every time something goes wrong, you are given two choices: point the finger or take the mirror. One protects your ego, the other builds your character. Blaming feels good in the moment. It lets you off the hook. It gives you someone or something else to be mad at, but it also makes you powerless. Because the more you blame, the more you train your mind to believe that your life is controlled by things outside of you. You turn yourself into a victim of circumstances instead of the author of your next move. Taking responsibility is not about blaming yourself for everything. It is about owning your response, your growth, your role in the story. When you do that, people notice. You become the kind of person others trust. Because you do not run from accountability. You do not make excuses. You do not dodge feedback. You listen. You learn. You adjust. That is strength, not weakness. And it changes the way people interact with you. In every relationship, personal or professional, trust is built on responsibility. The moment you say, that was on me, or I could have handled that better, you instantly separate yourself from the crowd. Most people are too busy defending their image, but the ones who own their mistakes, they build reputations that last. They earn respect not by being perfect, but by being honest. And in a world full of deflection, honesty is magnetic. When you take responsibility, you also reclaim control. You stop waiting for someone else to fix things. You stop needing life to be fair before you start showing up differently. You become your own solution. That shift changes your energy. It changes your tone. It changes the way you walk into a room, how you handle stress, how you recover from failure. People can feel it when someone has stepped into their own power. It shows in the way you carry conversations, solve problems, lead without forcing it. Responsibility is not always easy. Sometimes it means facing truths that make you uncomfortable. Sometimes it means apologizing when you'd rather justify. Sometimes it means owning up to the fact that you've been coasting, hiding, or playing smaller than you know you should. But every time you choose responsibility over blame, you raise your standard. You move one step closer to the version of you that doesn't need to be chased, pitied, or rescued. Because you've learned to back yourself. You also inspire others, not by preaching, but by modeling. People around you will feel safer opening up when they see you do it first. They'll trust you more when they see you lead with integrity. They'll come to you not because you have all the answers, but because you don't run from the hard parts. That kind of presence is rare, and it makes a real difference. Responsibility also builds emotional maturity. When you stop blaming, you stop reacting. You begin responding with clarity. You stop wasting time fighting battles that don't matter, and start solving the ones that do. You realize that growth is not about proving you're right. It's about learning what works. And that mindset doesn't just improve your personality, it improves your life. You will still make mistakes. You will still fall short. But the way you handle those moments is what defines your personal growth. Do you look outward or inward? Do you deflect or reflect? Do you shrink or step up? Your answers to those questions don't just shape how others see you. They shape who you become. Responsibility is not a burden. It is a privilege.